I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul.
We're exporting a whole lot of really bad and dangerous rhetoric, bad research, and unfortunately it's being picked up and amplified in other countries.
It's the same battle, Mr. Myers. We've been at it before. They want to addict these kids, this time to an e-cigarette, which has a chemical that's addictive. We know what it leads to. Sadly, it leads to tobacco addiction, disease, and death.
I'm going to get you addicted to nicotine. I have a customer for life. We have hundreds of cases nationwide where people have gotten sick or died using these devices.
Look what they're trying to do. All the delicious flavors of e-cigarettes are poison.
They're not people giving up smoking. They're not people that ever smoked before. Most people that vape never smoked before. Just think if your kid was doing this and winds up with an IQ 10 or 15 points lower than he or she would have had for the rest of her life.
Most people who vape are current or former smokers. For the addicted adult smoker who switches, there's going to likely be a reduction in risk.
There's a tremendous push to bring about prohibition, to actually prohibit vaping. Whereas the evidence strongly suggests that actually, up to now, the most successful way of people stopping smoking cigarettes is vaping.
Yeah. When vaping increases, smoking decreases.
That's right.
When vaping is restricted, smoking increases.
We're worried that, in fact, a lot of members of the public still think that using an e-cigarette is as harmful as smoking a cigarette. So, I mean, I have said that it would be tragic if smokers didn't quit and carried on smoking because they hadn't tried an e-cigarette, because they were worried about the safety of an e-cigarette.
The most disheartening thing is still the anti-choice rhetoric, the desire to enforce this quit or die mentality and refuse to allow individuals to reduce their risk unless they're willing to give up everything.
I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul.
Well, hello. It's Friday, and we're here again to do another one of these little Son of Liberty radio shows. Hi, how the hell are y'all doing? I feel bad for the cockroach in that video. Like, really. But as you noticed at the beginning of the show, we did a little tribute to Eddie Van Halen, who succumbed to throat cancer this week. Rest in peace, Eddie. Thanks for the tunes. So we got some stuff to talk about. I'm going to bring Kevin in real fast because, I like to get the ginger out of the way. So, howdy, Kevin.
The ginger out of the way. Just push me around. I'm used to it.
Yeah, let's say hello to Bill and Tom and RBMKII. I don't know what the hell that means, but Tom is here. Some moron named Kevin Crowley's in the chat room, and Shannon and Mark and David and Megan said she wasn't going to listen. She left a message saying that she was going to go to bed or whatever, but she's here. So and apparently it's Shannon Brown's birthday. So happy birthday, Shannon Brown, who's in the chat room.
Happy birthday to you.
And Bill is in there. Bill's trying to be funny and typing kanji in the. I'm not even going to try to translate that right now. And Victor's in the chat room. So Kevin, what the hell have you been doing this week?
Lots of house stuff. I'm tired and I'm sore.
Well, I mean, at your age, you got to be careful.
Well, for 80, yes, you do. Happy birthday, Shannon.
Shannon's not 80 though.
No, she's 21.
Yes.
All women. The rule is all women are 21 because if you're stupid, you're going to say anything higher because they want to be 21 always. Whether they're younger, they want to be 21, or they're older, they want to be 21. That's the rule.
Yeah. I get you. I try to be careful. I try to be careful because my wife does sleep with a machete under her pillow. Mm-hmm. And those Filipino women are very feisty. I mean, you guys don't have the experience that I have, but yeah, they're Don't upset. Paul showed up in the chat room, so we got a couple Aussies in the chat room, and I always like to pick on Tom and call him a Kiwi, but he might one day like get very angry with me for confusing him. But he's definitely an undercover Kiwi.
I like Paul coming in because that lowers the property value a little bit for us.
Well, it does indeed lower the quality of the chat room, but we have a guest, and you were aware of Factasia because there is a link on your website to Factasia, but I came across this gentleman during the nicotine conference 2 or 3 weeks ago. I can't remember now. Time just sort of blurs in my mind. And I saw him as part of the consumer. They had a what's the word I'm looking for? They had a consumer panel, and they had him and a young lady from the Philippines and a gentleman from India, and this guy is from Thailand, but he's not a Thai person. He's an ex-Brit guy that lives in Thailand, and is this organization. He is Factasia.org, or he's a representative of Factasia.org, and is a vapor that lives in Thailand, which is also not one of the friendliest places for vaping. So I definitely wanted to bring him on the show. Plus, he seems like he could be fit inable with our type of dialogue. So without bringing too long and windy about it, let's bring in Mr. Heneage Mitchell from Factasia.org. Hello, young man.
Young man, I haven't been called that in a while.
Well, I don't want to start out the day like insulting the guest. That would be rude.
Well,
we wait till
the habits of a lifetime. Yeah,
about 15 minutes in, we'll start.
Yes, that it might happen. So, Heneage, one of the things that we do is we like to hear each guest's like vape story. How did you find vaping? Blah blah blah. Just tell us about you and about vaping.
Okay. Well, I was a smoker for nearly 50 years. Loved it. What's not to like about smoking other than it kills you, right? So I was also in the media industry for many years, and for 12 of those years, I was the co-publisher and managing director of a tobacco trade industry magazine. And so I got to see how the tobacco industry works sort of from the inside, but removed from it. I've never worked for a tobacco company, and I doubt I ever would. But I became really we reported dry facts, about equipment and stuff. Tobacco farming, filters, paper, blah, blah, blah. But one thing that became very increasingly obvious to me was that tobacco companies have got absolutely no ability to communicate with either their customers or legally, thanks to the FCTC, with the regulators. So they're evil, wicked, lying, cheating, swinish, complete bastards who will just try to poison you all, and that may have been the case in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, possibly into the 80s. But by then there was a corporate shift to where they realized they had some corporate responsibilities, and I saw firsthand that not all, but most tobacco companies, particularly the big boys, actually have a corporate mindset that is very aware of the fact that they have been wrong in the past and done the wrong thing. And when it comes down to corporate responsibility, there's very few companies around that are more corporately responsible than big tobacco, believe it or not. Now, I found as a smoker that I was being increasingly ostracized, socially turned into a pariah, being taxed to hell, and I had no voice, none. So I decided once I got around to retiring from publishing stuff, that I wanted to devote the rest of my time to supporting the rights of consumers to have a voice. And in those days, vaping wasn't a particularly big thing. It was relatively new. But very quickly, I saw, my God, there's this whole segment of tobacco harm reduction stuff which no one knows about. And oh, look, it's being completely restricted and no one can say anything about it. So I set up Factasia in 2012, essentially as a mouthpiece for consumers to debate, to have a voice to regulators about their rights as people, as human beings, as citizens, as voters, to have a say in how regulation that's being passed affects them, and to have a voice. But very quickly it became obvious that tobacco, conventional cigarettes, had an alternative to the quit or die dogma, and that was vaping. So I remember trying my first vape in a vape shop in Malaysia on the background of a conference, and I thought, oh wow, this is great. So I started vaping. I remember going to the airport thinking, I can vape on the plane, I can vape in the airport, no one will know. Oh look, I've run out of juice. So the first fill that I did was on the train going to the airport in Kuala Lumpur. And I was completely ham-fisted and just threw juice all over my hands, all over my pants, all over my shirt, all over the train seat. And my first thought was, oh my God, I'm going to die from nicotine poisoning because, you know, I'm covered in juice. Obviously, I didn't.
You look pretty good for a dead guy.
Yeah. So I subsequently was back in Malaysia a year or so later with the redoubtable Dr. Konstantinos Farsalinos, who you may have heard of.
We might have heard of him. We might have actually interviewed him before. You never know.
Indeed, it's possible. So we ended up going on a tour of the bodegas in Malaysia, in Chinatown, and there's literally hundreds of small, medium, and not, you know, and townhouse type of suppliers of vape, primarily juices, and we were horrified. I mean, there were literally thousands and thousands of different varieties and brands of vape juice, none of them regulated, no idea what was in any of them. Some of them tasted really good, I have to say, but we didn't know what was in any of them. And that kind of really put me off and really cemented in my head the requirement, the need, the absolute duty of regulators to regulate the actual product itself, not ban it. Regulation doesn't mean ban. It means actually, is the manufacturing to a standard? And what's lacking, as we all know, in the vaping universe, is a lack of harmonized regulation, meaning if I'm making a juice in the States, it should conform to regulations. That means, like I said, in Malaysia, in the EU, in Africa, in India, wherever. That's where we are with pretty much everything else we consume in our lives, except for vaping products. So for the last, quite a few years now, we've been really concentrating on trying to mobilize consumers to stand up for their rights, to be able to make informed adult choices, and B, for governments to recognize this fact and stop messing about and screwing us around and causing us all to be either breaking the law or dying from smoking. We have a choice. There is a third way, and we need to accept and embrace this, and regulators need to understand that just because a billionaire says it doesn't mean that it's correct. The moralistic side of things that's being foisted on people, and the millions, if not billions of dollars that are being pumped into destroying the health of people with the well-being moralistic side of things, is absolute bullshit and has to be faced and has to stop. Yeah. All right. Enough from me for now. Ask me a question.
Well, you mentioned a billionaire, and I tend to believe that the billionaire you're talking about is the same billionaire that we hate and was highlighted in the intro video, Michael Bloomberg, who has taken it on himself to spend, I don't know what, close to $700 million in the last couple of years on anti-vaping efforts and donations to the WHO. I mean, we drop out of the WHO and he jumps in and gives more than what we took away. So, the WHO tend to be, at least in your part of the world and in other developing countries, they tend to be the voice that most of these governments listen to, because when they come, they also bring Chinese Belt and Road money and all sorts of other things to come and develop infrastructure in their countries. So when you open the door to the WHO, you're bringing in possible opportunity, but you're also bringing in, less than desirable help from other countries, or at least one particular other country.
I'd like to, I'd like to point out something that you just said, Heneage, the corporate responsibility of the tobacco industry and vapors. I don't know if it's out of habit or if it's out of absolute hate once you stop smoking sometimes. And I was like that at first as well, is they are the enemy no matter what. And they're really not. And the word corporate responsibility is huge to people that are listening and watching, because there are watchdogs watching them do things, and they've been above board for quite a while, at least since Glantz found the tobacco papers, and the anti-smoker, the tobacco control groups, the FTP, whatever it is, FCTC,
Framework Convention on Tobacco Control, FCTC.
Right. They're also in that with WHO. So it's good that you point that out to everybody, because some people are still just, they hate tobacco companies no matter what, and I don't really think they're the enemy.
No, the enemy. If you want to have an enemy, it's the pharmaceutical companies, backed by the billionaires. They're the guys who are trying to protect their utterly ineffective and unpleasant smoking cessation therapies. And let's face it. I mean, anybody that's listening that's tried a patch or a spray or a gum, or even worse, some of those dreadful pills that lead you to suicide. Yeah, I'm quit smoking. I'm dead.
Right.
They don't work. In fact, they have a failure rate of around 96% over 3 years, which means that over 3 years, a guy's going to do a 6-week thing of patches or sprays or gums, and it won't work. Go back to smoking. I'll try again. So it's an endless market until you get sick from smoking-related diseases and require a bunch more pharmaceuticals to see you through to a nice, unpleasant death. Yeah. So they're the guys that are pumping billions of dollars into supporting all the cancer foundations, all the heart foundations, all the medical foundations throughout the world. So the CEOs are paid for by pharmaceutical money. Here's the script. You want to get paid? Here's the script. We saw this in Australia, where the head of the Australian, I think it was the Australian Heart Association, the Australian Medical Association, went, we're never going to allow vaping. No, it's deadly, horrible, rotten stuff. No. It absolutely doesn't work, and it's no good. 6 months after he retired, he's like, well, I actually think vaping's probably quite a good way to get out of cigarettes, because he wasn't on the script anymore, because he wasn't being paid anymore. It's all about the money. Follow the money. And while we're on the subject of money and Bloomberg, let me just segue into this. Yes, he's pumping hundreds of millions of dollars into supporting health departments, the union, the WHO, the flavor for kids, whatever it is, the kids smoking, whatever.
Campaign for tobacco-free kids.
That's the one. $20-something million that to ban flavors. This is the same guy who, together with Bill Gates, is part of a bunch of an investment thing for startup, and Gates and Bloomberg and their cronies have pumped millions into a company called Hafa Health, and Hafa Health is developing a product called Hale, and Hale looks something like this, he says, covering the brand, but we all know what it is. It is basically this. It just doesn't have flavors. So how useful to be able to take tax-free foundation money to pump into public health bodies and destroy the science and destroy the rights of smokers and vapors and basically everybody, and therefore destroy the vaping market. in order to, that's the one, in order to get flavors removed completely, so that your nice little product, Have a Health, can have the market to itself, because you've destroyed the competition. I mean, this is tax-free money, foundation money, that is being used essentially covertly to enhance the marketing of a vape device that doesn't have flavors. Thanks, Mr. Bloomberg. You're
the
a real
Village. The Village Global is the group that you're talking about. It's all of these people: Zuckerberg, Bezos, Gates, Bloomberg. We talked about this, I think, last week. This is a billionaires club. Obviously, you see this guy who's stealing all of your data from your Amazon product in your house. You got this guy that's got all of your data from your social medias. This guy, LinkedIn. So yeah, these guys right here, these four guys, they got all your shit. Plus Bloomberg, who has been very vocal that he is anti-vaping. Basically says if you vape, your IQ is going to be 10 points lower than it would be without vaping.
I actually went up.
Man, if that's the case, I would be even more of a genius. But this is a global. I hate this. This is going to sound like tinfoil hatty, but this is a globalist agenda. These are the same people that want to do contact tracing on your phone. They want to know who you're with, when you're with them, who they were with. This is like guilt by association. Plus, you never know what these damn apps. Obviously, to participate in society these days, you have to have a smartphone and you have to be on the medias, and you have. I better not say anything bad about social media, because we're on all of them right now. We're on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. So yeah, it is these guys have an agenda. Obviously, not to get into the COVID too much, but Gates has got the monopoly on world health when it comes to literally everything, because he owns half of the money that goes into vaccine research in the world is from his pockets, if not more. So the WHO are already on his dick, and obviously he's into this views or this hail thing. Why did I say view? Anyway, he's on the hail thing, or that the Village. God knows, I would love to see what all the other stuff that the Village is doing, but that's a rabbit hole we'll have to follow later. So Factasia is basically the Pacific side of Asia, literally. All of Asia. What is your focus?
We basically represent over 500 million smokers in the Asia Pacific region. I can say that, obviously, because there's not when I started, there wasn't anybody speaking on behalf of smokers or vapors in the region. Now, as you can see from this wonderful thing behind me, there's a lot of consumer organizations that have since started up in the region that have focused very much on getting the voices of vapors into government. It's a real challenge, but I have to say, when I started this in 2012, there were no consumer organizations of any ilk for anything in Asia. Basically, there weren't. It's not a particularly Asian thing to stand up and have your voice heard, but increasingly now it is. And I think one has to look at the reason behind it. Is because anybody that was a smoker and has started vaping and has quit cigarettes and seen their life improve, their health improve significantly, and their families, around them as well.
Dad, you don't think anymore.
Yeah, really. Yeah, exactly. And you're actually enjoying my cooking or criticizing it in a reasonable way. But once people have these kind of life-changing experiences, you want to share it. That's the reason your show is here, is because we've all discovered that, wow, we've done something for ourselves. It wasn't a drug that we took. It's a consumer product that's actually helped us to get rid of something that was killing us and damaging us. So we've made this decision for our own health, for our own well-being. It's worked, and we want to share it, because you want to share stuff that works. You do. Yep. I mean, you know, that's it. So this has been a major driving force for consumer groups around the region, is that, wow, good news, this works. What? I'm not allowed to have it? No, you're wrong. We have to have it. And, you know, well, not any way possible, in the right way. We want it regulated. We want to make sure that the goods and products that we're buying are manufactured to acceptable standards, that, you know, they don't blow up in our hands, that they don't poison us when we use them. And it's not a difficult thing. The devices are really simple: battery, coil, it's just pull it out of the shelf. The regulation shelf. It's an electrical product. It's that's what it is. It's conformed to that. Done. Juice. This is what you can use. This is what you can't use. But we're inundated with all these lies and utter bullshit that the headlines, it's just as bad as smoking. No, it's not. Hello, that's the huge challenge for all of us, no matter where we are in the world, is we're constantly barraged by this fake bullshit, the headlines that tell us we're all going to die, we're all going to, it's just as bad. The children, no. there's for every ridiculously funded bit of science, so-called scientific research that comes up from the desk of Glantz and his mates, there are dozens, if not hundreds, of actual peer-reviewed bits of research which totally debunk that. But that doesn't get to the press. That doesn't get to the media. So people are just reading a headline. I mean, anybody that's been in publishing knows you read the headline and maybe you read the first paragraph, and that's the story. That's just what gets through. So
the headline,
we're all being lied to, we're all being cheated, and we're all being denied our basic rights to enjoy a healthier, more fulfilling life by Bill Gates, Bloomberg, and pharmaceutical companies. I just wanted to get that out there. Yeah.
So you mentioned nicotine replacement therapy. So I did want to throw this on the screen. So this is a market analysis for 2020, the industry size, the status and so forth for nicotine replacement therapy. I'm not sure if this is the U.S. numbers or if this is the world market numbers, but according to them, the nicotine replacement therapy in 2019 was $2.55 billion and should reach $3.54 billion by 2027. Now, that's the North American market is 1.18 billion in 19. So it is a sizable market. It's something that they spent. I mean, literally, you got to realize nicotine replacement therapy, patches, gums, lozenges, sprays, all of those things were developed 2 decades, 3 decades, 5 decades ago. There has literally been no measurable innovation in those products. They spent that money already in developing those products. Now everything that they do, marketing is really the only thing that's the only new expense that they have with these products. Now initially, I mean, we've talked about it before, when patches were initially introduced to the market, that was a prescription product. You had to have a prescription. You could only be on it for X number of months. You had to wean. There was a built-in, titration and weaning, and then eventually you were supposed to stop. Pharmaceutical companies said to the FDA, "Hey, there's a lot of demand for this to continue because they don't fucking work, but people will still buy them because they don't want to die. So take them off the prescription schedule so that we can just throw them on the over-the-counter, and people will continue to buy them." And that's exactly what's happened with every one of these products. Initially, they were pharmaceutical, or initially they were prescription, and then they've been slowly but surely transitioned to over-the-counter or right in the front door of the store when you walk in at kid's eye level.
Yep.
The fucking nicotine gum, when you walk into the Walmart or into the CVS or the Walgreens, they're at kid eye level, right when they walk through the door, and they're sold in a plethora of fruit flavors.
No.
A plethora. I just had to use plethora. Oh, by the way, Heneage, curse words are drinking words on this show. So anytime that you curse, the viewers and those of us that are drinking will drink, and we'll see how far down the rabbit hole we actually get to go.
We'll drink and you keep cussing.
I'm sorry, but I'm a fucking teetotaler, so I can't fucking support that.
That's bullshit. There we go. David said 1 beer down.
See, there's an actual dedicated and loyal viewer / listener in David Moyle.
There you go.
Yes, Paul has finally admitted that he is a bit fruity. I'm glad that you finally admitted that, Paul.
That's his choice.
We will not judge you on your life decision.
Nope. Don't care.
So, there are quite a few countries in Asia, Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, up until about a month and a half ago, the Philippines, that were very unfriendly to vaping. And we often talk about what's going to happen here when the FDA boom does hit us, about the huge black market that's going to happen here in the States when legal product is no longer available. Has that happened over there?
Oh, absolutely. If you first of all, you said there are a few countries that are unfriendly. No, they're all unfriendly. I mean, every single one is for one reason or another, whether they're an FCTC signatory or not, believe that whatever the FCTC says, they have to do it. No, they don't. Even if you're a signatory, there's only two things you have to do, which is to raise taxes and not allow advertising. That's it. The rest of it is all advisory. But within the region, if you look at India, where it is a de facto ban, it's actually not illegal to use a vape device. You're just not allowed to buy or sell or trade or import or manufacture anything to do with vaping, meaning, yes, you can vape, but you can't buy it. But of course you can. In Thailand, where, again, it's not actually illegal to vape, vaping per se is not illegal, but the importation of the products is not taxed. There is no tax bracket for it. Consequently, if you've got a vape device in Thailand, it means that you've smuggled it in, which is a automatic charge of basically you're a smuggler. Economic sabotage is the actual charge. The possession of it is not illegal, but the fact that you have one means that you smuggled it in because no tax bracket exists for it. Similar story for heat not burn in Hong Kong, where the device itself is not illegal. The heat sticks are not illegal because they're essentially cigarettes. I mean, this is the same banana, but because there's no actual tax bracket, it's all grey. Now it's a significant market share that heat not burn has captured in Hong Kong, but it's all grey market. Vietnam, there's again no tax on it. The products are not regulated, but there's vape shops all over the place. It's all grey market. In Thailand, I'm reliably informed that you can get whatever you want online delivered to your door. Apparently.
Yeah, apparently. I know that Japan, there's no nicotine.
In Japan, there's you're not allowed to sell juice with nicotine, but you can buy your own nicotine, which you would necessarily purchase online, and add it to a juice. So the juice is sold without nicotine. In Hong Kong, also nicotine is not allowed. I mean, that in and of itself is a ridiculous concept because if you look at the countries that don't allow nicotine in vaping, they have no capacity to test for nicotine in a vape juice. And as we all know, nicotine is flavorless, odorless, colorless. You wouldn't know. So in fact, you can wander around Hong Kong perfectly safely because no one could ever test it, you know. But that said, if we look at Hong Kong, which is a relatively small market, but there's been a lot of panic and hysteria. The children. But at the end of the day, it is still legal. There's no regulation at all. You can sell a fruity flavored vape with no nicotine anywhere you want. There's no regulations at all. And so, you know, one of the things that really pisses me off about regulators is that they use the youth epidemic, which doesn't exist and can be proven, but they don't want to look at that. Is that if you're genuinely concerned about the kids, and you should be, why the hell haven't you passed regulation banning the sale of these products to underage users? Why haven't you done that? They haven't. So instead, they'd rather ban the product to protect the children, when in fact the basic piece of legislation that no one would fight them on would just be to say ban the sale of it to underage users. Done. Just as we do for alcohol and tobacco.
We did that here, and that didn't do anything. We have a law. It's illegal to sell to kids here, and they're still fucking trying to kill us here.
Well, yeah, but at the end of the day, if you can't, what's the word, police that, then what makes you think you can police banning it? You can't. If children are still getting it, and it's the law that they can't, well, what does that tell you? It tells you that your policing is, you know, inadequate. So how much money do you want to spend at policing, criminalizing people who are adults who are making an informed decision to improve their own health by switching away from deadly cigarettes to far less harmful tobacco harm-reduced products, nicotine delivery systems, whatever you want to call them? Why would you want to criminalize people like that? Why aren't you supporting them? Why aren't you giving them the means to do that and actually supporting them? Oh, yes, it's because you're making billions of dollars in taxes. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, of course. Right. Yeah. So Indonesia's solution was just to tax vape products at the highest possible tax rate. So to put that into context, Juul, who's now pulled out of Indonesia, but if you look at the cost of a Juul pod in sorry, I didn't mean, I can't stand the company, love the product, but if you look at the cost of a Juul pod, it's 3 times the cost of a packet of Marlboro. 3 times because of the tax, but you up until recently you could buy it. So you know this whole like taxation money train, it just works against the consumer, because it isn't a big company that created this product. It was created by entrepreneurs and is produced by entrepreneurs, and they don't really have the clout and the money to either lobby governments for effective, proportionate, reasonable and rational regulation. Neither do they have the money to pay the kind of stupid FDA, CDC type of fees to get a product in the market. So this is actually slewed back to helping big tobacco companies who can afford it, and pharmaceutical companies who were able to go back to an earlier point to convince the WHO accurately in this particular case to say, look, if you're having a problem quitting using nicotine replacement therapy, it's okay to keep using it rather than reverting back to cigarette, because there are, quote, no known long-term health consequences from the use of nicotine. In other words, you can put a patch or a spray or a gum or a lozenge into your body for the rest of your life, and it won't cause you any health effects. So what's the difference between that and this? Hello. There is.
And in any combination now, and higher nicotine levels, they're now saying, yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, you know, we don't have the clout, we don't have the money, we don't have the ability to hit all of those places as hard as the big tobacco and the big pharmaceutical companies do. And as we know, it takes decades for consumer, grassroots consumer organizations. Obviously, look at marijuana in the United States. They've been fighting for a half a century to get marijuana legalized on a state or federal level. Here in the United States, it's still federally illegal, but several states have stepped up and passed decriminalization or legalization in their states. But that's taken 50 years. We're a little upstart industry. Vaping is a little tiny industry. I don't care what you say. I mean, there are people in this that listen to this show that think that vaping, 5, 6, 8 years ago was too big to fail. That we were too big to fail. Even at the largest estimate that this industry is, regulators crush industries on a daily fucking basis that are bigger than we are. That's something that we all need to realize, that we are very young, very small, and just in the infancy of this industry, what it could develop into in the future. But yeah, that's the depressing fact is this is a life-saving miracle. This technology product is a life-saving miracle that the governments, plural, all over the world are willing to destroy based on the fact that they can make money off of your death and your illness. I did see a tweet this week. I tweeted, and I was looking for it just now, where I figured out what the cost of each death, what was the benefit of each death for these people that are willing to. Oh, here it is. I already found it. No, that's a different one that I want to talk about. But it's silly to me that these people are willing to just sit back and watch as people die, suffocating, fighting for their air, just because. Yeah, here it is. I found it. So this is actually a response to FDA tobacco. I saw my friend Lindsay Stroud, who was Australia bound apparently to go work for the Americans for Tax Reform, or Australian tax reform group that Tim is from. But yeah, what's the price for 480,000 deaths per year? The FDA collects $5.1 billion per year in user fees. This is the fees that that get paid to the FDA by tobacco companies every year based on the sales. So they are collecting $5.1 billion, which is about $10,625 per dead smoker. This is what the regulators collect for the death of 480,000 people per year in the United States alone. Now, the tobacco market is different in every country. I think when Bogan and Paul were on, we talked about the size of the income, the tobacco tax in Australia, which is some crazy astronomical number because what does a pack of cigarettes in Australia cost? About $30 or $40 a pack. So we know that the cost of manufacture for a pack of cigarettes is about $1.20 per pack. That means that they're collecting, what, $39 and some change for every pack of cigarettes in taxes? It's like,
and they're not banned.
No. Why? Well, no. The Philippines was tremendously anti-vaping. President Duterte had been very vocal and had given orders to law enforcement to arrest any vapor that they found in public vaping, until about a month ago when the Senate in the Philippines passed a tax bill, and now that it's a tax product, they're not threatened anymore.
Everybody's okay now.
I wouldn't say that they're not threatened. That I wouldn't say. You've got the FDA that's still trying to medicalize it.
Well, yeah, but at least they're not going to get arrested.
By Bloomberg and supported by the union, which is funded by Bloomberg. It's been an open secret that Bloomberg's held a desk within the Philippine Department of Health for decades. He funds hundreds of, if not millions of dollars worth of funds to the Department of Health, to all the medical associations and what have you. It's completely corrupted, absolutely, completely corrupted.
17
They had
billion.
a hearing. They had a hearing, and FDA had a hearing, which was supposed to be a public consultation over the last 2 days, yesterday and the day before. And during that hearing, it was supposed to be a public consultation. In fact, it was just pre-recorded video loops and propaganda. There was no public consultation. And who funded that? Bloomberg through the union. Bloomberg and the union, and Bloomberg funds the union. That's what it is. So no, there's still a problem in the Philippines. It's still under threat.
Yeah, well, of course it's still under threat, but at least people aren't going to get arrested now.
No, they just get shot there, don't they?
Yeah.
They just have this thing called extrajudicial killing over there. That's all right.
Yeah, it's perfectly okay. You know, I'm just another smoker at Vapor gone. Who cares? Right? Oh yeah. Look, to an earlier point. You know, you were saying it's taken 50 years to get marijuana to where it is right now, and I don't like to conflate marijuana with vaping because it's not the same. But one of the things that we have on our side is there's 1 billion of us, smokers and vapors. There's over 1 billion of us. We have a voice, and one of the things we can do. There's a few things that we can do. One is to unite on our messaging, to make sure that we all understand that this is something that's a game changer. It's a life-saving technology, and it's worked for us. And keep spreading that message out. Sharing personal stories is really, really important. The other thing we can do, all of us that are adults, is we can vote. And if you're in an election year, oh yes, you are. Where do your candidates stand on whether that's in the local council or a congressman or a senator or God forbid a president? Then where do you stand on vaping? Because many of us are very single issue voters. If you're not for me, you're against me, and I don't want anything for me that doesn't include me. So it's really important to ask the question to whoever wants your vote. Well, okay, you want my vote? Are you on my side? Do you agree that I should have the right to choose a less harmful product such as vaping, or do you want to ban it? You want to ban it? Well, I want to ban you. Simple as that. And together we're incredibly powerful. The corporates, they have the money, but without us purchasing these products and making these choices and putting our money down to buy these products, they don't have a business. We are what makes them live or die. And we've decided we want vaping, and together we could really do this. We have to do it. But I'm optimistic. We can do it. The people have the power, whether the politicians like it or not. We do. And we need to exercise that power intelligently, because we don't have the funds that the pharma companies and the billionaires do. We don't. But what we do have is a lot of voices. I refer you to Aaron's excellent movie, A Billion Lives, and his forthcoming movie, The Truth About Nicotine. A thread that's going all the way through this is a consumer product. As we say, the toothpaste is out of the tube. You can't put it back in again. And it behooves all of us to stand up and be counted, and to join forums like this, and to use Twitter and social media to get our voices heard. Because at the end of the day, louder, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, this, what do you call it? A podcast show? I don't know what you call it. This is one element of what we can do to have our voices heard loudly.
We're a thing, is what we are. We're a thing. We do. This is not a podcast, but after we're done, it will be uploaded and become a podcast. So right now we're in the middle of a thing. But
it's been called a lot of things.
I love things. Yeah, things are good.
I've had vaping attorneys and politicians tell back when Demetrius owned the network, you need to muzzle that guy. All sorts of crazy shit like that, because I don't kiss anybody's fucking ass. I'll tell you that. So yeah, the we vape, we vote dialogue has been something that is a thing here. The problem is that we can't get all of the people to vote to vote at all. And we can't get people to vote for the candidate that is the best one for them. So, obviously there are quite a few people that will disagree with me, but Trump has done nothing for us. He had a meeting a year ago, met with all the people, seemed to understand the issues, made comments that made it seem like, this is bad. No. If we act in the wrong way, this is bad. There's going to be Chinese product on a black market and yada, yada, yada. And he did nothing.
He clearly understood it.
Yeah, I read the transcript. I watched the video. I read the transcript. I watched the video, read the transcript. He understood the issue at hand before COVID was a thing, had plenty of time to act, seemed to communicate that something possibly was going to happen that would be helpful, and then did nothing. Obviously, we have the Democrat. We have Joe Biden, who says that he's going to follow the science, but his VP candidate has been vocally saying that if when she was running for president, if I get elected, I'm going to ban that shit. And then we have a libertarian candidate who probably has a rat's chance in hell of actually winning, but has been vocally pro-vaping, has said that she would decriminalize half the shit that we have criminalized already. Seems to be the way to go, but getting everybody to vote that direction is going to be Everest. I mean, because obviously there are plenty of pro-Trumpers that aren't going to like what I'm telling you, but he's not going to do anything. He's had plenty of time. And my God, you guys that are saying, well, if we get him elected, then he's going to do something. That motherfucker is holding your vote hostage for the possible chance that he might do something. That's bullshit. Like, he has time to act. He's had time to act, and he hasn't acted. If you believe that he's going to act in your interest after he gets reelected, when he's had all this time to do it, he's holding your fucking vote hostage. The old demented man, he's not going to be president very long anyway. The vice president is going to probably become the president. And she's already said, so you can't vote for her if this is your one issue that you're going to vote on. Obviously, we get into a whole lot of other things because vaping and the people that vape are a very broad demographic from every background. Just like smokers. Everybody that smoked was rich, poor, white, black, purple, green, gay, straight. People smoked. And the only common factor is they were all human beings. So if you have another issue that's important to you, you have to find a candidate that you agree most with. The one that says, you know what, I'm going to let you do what you want to do with your body. I'm going to be the candidate that says that you can do whatever you want as long as it doesn't hurt other people. That's the person we should be voting for, because they're the one that already said, I'm going to decriminalize all this shit. I'm going to get rid of all these government agencies that are trying to kill you. And these products need to be manufactured in a reasonable and responsible way. And that's it. That's the candidate we should be fucking voting for. So, yeah. The we vape, we vote thing. I've talked to politicians. Since we don't all move in the same direction when somebody moves, they're not afraid of it. Because they've had experience. We've been using we vape, we vote since 2014, and nobody's afraid of it anymore. So we have to scare the shit out of them. All these vapors need to vote for the candidate that is going to be more beneficial to them.
Less harmful.
Even if they don't win, because then we can say, look how many votes that candidate got because the vapors all went that way. We went that way together. But yeah.
Which is what Heneage said. We have to be one voice or two voices.
Well, Logan gets a voice too.
He's mad as we are.
We vape, we have guns. I like that one, Bill.
Yeah,
That's a good
Bill's
one.
Canadian. Bill's Canadian though, so I don't know if he actually has a gun or not.
Of course
I'm
he
in
does.
Texas. I'm in Texas. Of course, I got guns.
Mine were lost in a tragic boating accident.
Well, some of mine disappeared, but yeah, otherwise, I had to keep some of them.
Yep. What about
yeah,
human rights, Heneage? Human rights as a voice.
Human rights as a voice. Well, that is the thing that binds the whole side of things: the libertarian side, the socialist side, even the Republican side. I mean, this is ultimately a human rights issue. We talk about consumer rights, we talk about choice, but we have a right enshrined in the god awful WHO of the right to health. It's a basic, fundamental human right. It comes with having clean drinking water, education, and the right to choose to make decisions for ourselves based on accurate, full information. That is a human right. This is a human rights issue, which is why so I am essentially hopeful, because for all the political correctness that's thrown at us in everything that we encounter every day, human rights is something that binds a vast majority of the people on the planet. That we have basic human rights, and one of our basic human rights is being denied by the Bloomberg, Gates, pharmaceutical companies, WHO, FCTC, CDC, FDA, blah, 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 the right to choose less harmful products to use, particularly when you look at the fact that the one that's actually killing us, cigarettes, is completely legal.
Yep.
It's completely legal, and in the United States, it's actually protected. Because the master settlement agreement, part of the agreement was that the states would never try to ban the sale of combustible cigarettes in their states. This was agreed to.
Yeah.
46 attorney generals signed on to this.
Yeah.
And the other 4 had independent agreements.
There's your problem, you see, is that because they can't stop cigarettes and they make shit tons of money out of it, which they've already spent, and now as smoking goes down, they've got, oops, we've spent all the money and it's not coming in, oops. But obviously there's going to be look, here's something that threatens that market and our diminishing returns from the master settlement, because we spent all the money in advance before we got it. Now it's going down. Now here's something that can come in and undermine even further and reduce smoking rates even further. Let's ban that instead. There's nothing at all to do with health, nothing at all to do with rights, nothing at all to do with reason, nothing at all to do with science, everything to do with money. And that's what it is. So at the end of the day, it's my money and your money that they're taking. And where I choose to spend my money, it's up to me. And if you're a regulator, you need to understand that, there's a lot of us, and between us, we have more money than Bloomberg's and Gates put together. Between us, I mean, not in my pocket, not in your pocket, but all together, we do. And you're filching us out of it in taxes and whatever for products that you want us to keep using, so that you can. And you're denying us the right to choose to use less harmful products, and making huge stumbling blocks for any small companies to actually supply us with these products. This is iniquitous and wrong, and ultimately, hopefully not in 50 years, before that, it will change. It has to. It will.
The FCTC is an initiative of the WHO, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
funded, by the way, initially by Big Pharma.
Yeah.
That's so all the funding.
During obviously, we talked about last November, I believe, maybe October. We caught video of Glance actually in New Zealand, pushing for vaping bans and vaping's bad and blah blah blah. That's just one instance of our bullshit being exported to other countries. during the recent Mike Cunt or Greg Cunt round of bullshit, he actually quoted American CDC vaping epidemic in the youth bullshit to justify his actions in Australia. So our bad behavior, or at least our country's bad behavior, is being exported to other countries. I mean, obviously, there is no fucking youth epidemic of vaping in the United States. I want to make that perfectly clear. The bullshit, when Gottlieb, before he left the FDA, one of the things that he used as justification for all of his activities was, well, we got early numbers from the Youth Tobacco Survey, and they're scary, they're frightening, and we've got to do something about this. Well, obviously, not even the full data set, but the numbers were released in part last week, and there was a sharp decline in youth vaping, according to the Youth Tobacco Survey from last year. And now we had a public health asshole like King Gottlieb basically lie about data as justification for the prohibitionary tactics that he was taking. And he was kind of wishy-washy to begin with, because one thing he would say a positive thing about vaping, next thing you know, he's saying a negative thing about vaping. This is an off-ramp for adult smokers, but an on-ramp for youth. And then we have this whole thing with the survey coming out and there being a sharp decline in youth vaping and in youth smoking, historically the lowest ever. Yet the CDC comes out this week with, basically saying, yes, we're glad the numbers went down, but, it's still awful. We're creating 8,000 new underage nicotine addicts every day. 8,000.
Do the math.
I did the math on a tweet.
I know.
I did the math on a tweet, and it was like, what?
You're running out of kids.
What are you talking about? I mean, if 8,000 kids are being addicted every day, I think I did it 2 days ago, and if I did my math correctly, and I'm still scrolling to actually find it because I didn't have it opened, we're talking about like 1 billion or 1 million kids this year. 1 million new kids are vaping this year, according to their numbers, which would mean here it is. I was wrong. I'm wrong. I'll slap it up on screen here. So they're saying in 280 days since January 1st, that 2,240,000 U.S. minors have started vaping during a COVID lockdown, right under their parents' noses because they couldn't go to school. And they're saying, you know what? I guess, I actually, since all the vape shops are closed or were closed during the beginning part of the COVID pandemic, they're saying that law enforcement, C-stores, and parents aren't doing their jobs. So, I mean, how do we counter this massive influx of misinformation and all-out lies by these respectable, this is CDC and American Lung Association. These are people that most generic citizens that don't that haven't crawled up the asses of these people and done the research hold in high esteem. I've gone through their books. I know how much fucking corruption and profiteering these public health corporations actually do, because I don't call them public health organizations anymore. These are for-profit corporations that the general public love and hold in high regard because they are concerned about people's heart and cardiac health. And the Lung Association, people are, they care about people's lungs. They don't give a shit about anything. All they want to do is continue to keep their jobs. And the Lung Association specifically, if we defeat smoking for them, what are they going to do?
They're out of work, and that's the same story with all these prohibitionists and anti-vapors. They've made a career out of tobacco control, and now here it is. Okay, it's now controlled. Oh no, it will be out of work.
Yeah,
that's it. So I'll just come up with some spurious research that says that people who had heart attacks started vaping. So vaping after they had the heart attack was obviously the reason behind it. Oh my God, let's ban it. Yeah. Hello.
OMG. And I do want to say I had a comment on one of the YouTube show from last week. Somebody, and it was about Glance. Somebody was saying, "Oh, well, Glance is going to get his because, if he starts." Because my theory is that he stepped down from the university so that he could go into private practice. Essentially, that he's going to become the go-to expert witness for all of these legislative groups, all of these different countries, all these health organizations around the world to go appear in hearings and legislative sessions for profit to
consulting,
spew his bullshit. And then somebody said, the comment was, well, I hope he does, because when he's cross-examined, and I was like, well, they don't cross-examine. I mean, not in a legislative session like that. They're going to listen to his lies and eat them up. And then they said, well, I hope he comes to England, because the commenter was from England, because I'm going to citizens arrest him for perjury and lies. And I'm like, and what's he going to do when they cross-examine him and start hitting him with all of his retracted studies? They still, even though he's retracted his bullshit studies, or the publishers have retracted them, they still get repeated. Once it's out in the world and it's published and somebody downloads it, they just quote it over and over again, even though the science has been proven to be wrong, and the general public and the politicians and legislators aren't going to go through all of that to find out that, oh, well, this old lying bastard that somehow in the last, I think we did the math, $2 billion for the state of California and the University of, UCSF in the last 2 calendar years. I mean, seriously, this guy is a cash cow.
And what Kelly said last week was, you put it out to somebody's face the first time, the second time, by the third time, that's what they see no matter what. So she had a good point.
The problem is, once this stuff gets thrown into the media, that's the story for today, this hour. But then if you sort of like come back and say, look, that's wrong, they go, yeah, well, that was yesterday's story. So, we've moved on now.
I mean, the heavy metals and all that bullshit has been debunked, but it still gets regurgitated in every fucking ad campaign. Formaldehyde.
Yes, I mean, all that. Barcelona's response to the formaldehyde thing was just priceless. The body, you produce more formaldehyde every time you exhale naturally than you take in from an e-cigarette that's been properly manufactured. That doesn't get any airplay because it's much nicer. Formaldehyde, wrong gonna die, the children. Yeah,
I didn't know that until Dr. Farsalinos said it.
There's a lot of things none of us knew until Dr. Farsalinos researched it independently, had it peer reviewed, and then published. A lot. But unfortunately, that's just not filtering through the media because that doesn't fit the script.
Yep, exactly.
Well, and you've been in media. I've been in media. I mean, obviously, the phrase "if it bleeds, it leads." Yep. And threaten. Oh my God! There's a possible tenuous idea that this thing might possibly in 1,000 years cause harm. Oh, let's tell the story of that, but let's make it much faster.
In other words, might. Yeah.
Let's generate news.
Yeah. Never let the truth interfere with a good story.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Those modal verbs.
I remember back in old-timey days, the news was the news.
Yeah.
These are the facts. This is what happened. You form your own opinion about that.
That's right. We're giving you an opinion. You went to the op-ed page.
Yeah.
What?
But now everything in the news is opinion. If regardless of where you are in the United States, where you lay on the political spectrum, if you watched the network news here. There's a TV. I'm pointing at a TV. If you watch the network news here, for example, Trump was in the hospital because he had the COVID. So instead of just reporting the facts that Trump got into a car and drove around Walter Reed and waved at the reporters, back in old-timey days, it would have been, Trump did this. It wouldn't have been, oh my God, that evil man just contaminated everybody in the car with him. I mean, that is how the news is. Instead of it just saying Trump drove around the hospital, it's Trump drove around the hospital and contaminated everybody in the car. And then when he came home from the hospital, he went into the White House. He went out on the balcony. He took his mask off and he stood there proudly, like, I'm home now. It was reported, oh my God, look at what he did. This is like a Mussolini photo op. And that is what the newsman said on TV. He expressed his opinion and then drew a correlation with a fascist dictator. Now, I'm not defending Trump because I really can't stand him, but do you see? I mean, that is most people don't know that Mussolini was quite popular when he was there, and he was a fascist and he was a fucking nationalist and he was not a nice person, but he stood up in front on the White House balcony. And the guy says, oh, this is just like something Mussolini would have done. The most uneducated people are going to go, oh, my God, Trump is Mussolini. Right. Just because the news guy said it. Instead of just saying Trump came out and stood on the balcony and then went inside.
And for some reason, I have something in my head about the average, this is newspaper days, the average reader of the paper, and I'm assuming today for media being watched, is like a 7th or 8th grade education average. That may or may not be true today, but that's something that's always stuck in my head. So yeah, you're manipulating the news because it might likely be.
Well, and that includes the people in the chat room and the viewers that will view later and that have listened to us, have learned, because the one thing that we do is we deconstruct news stories. That is what we do. We show you the news story. We show you the errors. We show you the reason why the headline is 99% of the time not reflective of the content within the news story itself. And we've taught you how to critically think about the media that you're absorbing. But by and large, the vast majority of the population, they trust their news people, even though they're not really news people anymore. These are infotainers.
Right. Jerome Adams himself has tweeted.
You had to bring up Jerome.
This came up on my Google alert. I can't help what the public feels. That's manipulation by a public health official. Even if he was just a doctor, that's manipulation. In his position on his personal page, he's doing it on purpose. When he's on the Surgeon General and he's putting an opinion piece out, just like Gottlieb did, what the hell, what the fuck for the drinkers, what the fuck are you putting out a person? See, he's mad too. Why are you putting out an opinion piece over anything, period, on your professional site ever?
Well, I mean,
it's not acceptable.
First, you brought the thunder now because you mentioned the fucking Surgeon General, and I'm already kind of pissed off about the Surgeon General. So obviously anybody that follows us knows that we've been trying to get the Surgeon General fired for about a year and a half now. Because he's a fucking idiot. But so he traveled, like, we're in the middle of a pandemic, right? We already caught him on Twitter. He was on Twitter in March telling people not to buy masks, not to wear masks. Masks aren't important. Don't blah, blah. And then finally, oh, well, you know what? You probably should start wearing masks. Yeah, masks are good. Okay, everybody fucking wear a mask.
I got a new Google alert.
So then the piece of shit is traveling all over the fucking country. He's in Hawaii because there's a surge in COVID numbers, and he's there to promote and assist with the public health people in Hawaii. What does he do while he's there? He breaks quarantine. He goes to a beach. All the beaches have been closed by order of the governor. Onto the beach that's been closed, and there's got to be signs, because when our beaches were closed, there were signs. Don't go on the beach or you'll be fined or whatever. To take selfies with his friend. There was another person there.
He was looking for underage vapors is what he was doing. You know that.
And then when the police officer comes, he's like, oh, well, I'm the Surgeon General, blah, blah, blah. And the guy's like, I got to write you a ticket because you're on the beach and you're not wearing a mask, yada, yada, yada. Aren't you here to promote mask usage and mitigation efforts? And here you are on a public beach that's been closed, standing right next to another dude taking a picture.
Yeah, look, I think you guys have completely missed the point here. Honestly, I need to educate you. You see, people like public health officials, Bloomberg, Gates, all these people, the billionaires and the public health officials and our government and our regulators, they're just better than us, and they know much more than we do what's best for us. So you just need to shut up and lie down and let them shit all over you. That's it. Honestly, guys, I mean, you must understand this. Surely you realize that we're all cretins and we have no idea about what's going on in the world, and we just leave it all to them. They know best. Obviously. Shut up, slave. They've got the money. Obviously, they're smarter than we are because they got more money than we are. So let's just leave it with them, and just stop all this nonsense and just lie down and die, okay? Because all right. I hope I've got this message through. Obviously, it's very important that clearly none of you understand this. So,
lie down and take it like a man.
Absolutely. Right. Yeah. Or a woman, whatever.
I'm going in dry. Yeah, that we may have missed that. We may have missed that point.
Yeah, I think it seems like
I'm embarrassed I'm embarrassed for my ignorance on that one.
Really, it's okay. You're welcome.
It's an educational thing. There's a curve.
Yeah. So by extension, of course, none of the rules that apply to us apply to them, because obviously, if you make the rules, you don't have to follow them. I mean, this is basic, obvious, common sense. I mean, even your kid knows that.
Patrick, why didn't you tell me all this?
I don't know, man. I was thinking, this whole, the other thing that I think that goes along with what Heneage just said was, obviously, this vaccine research that we're doing, and this is not about COVID, but you'll see a correlation, I promise you. They're doing all this vaccine research. Where do you think that they're testing these vaccines? What countries do you think are getting the first batches? Because obviously these people, Jerome Adams and the politicians and stuff, they're not going to be the first people. They don't want to be the first ones to test these vaccines out. They're going to
poorest countries
they're going to the third world countries. They're going to the black countries, the brown countries, the poorer countries. And they're saying, hey, here's some stuff. Shoot this into your body and tell us what it makes you feel like.
Well, it's understandable now that Heneage has explained it.
Yeah. We're not taking it until we test it on them people first.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, idiots like us, we would think let's give it to the politicians first, and if they survive, we can have it, and if they die, well, we're safer anyway. So right. But we're wrong, because we know jack shit about anything, because we're just muppets.
Now, Mark brought up something in the chat room that I know that Kevin you're aware of, because you it was on your Twitter a couple months ago. I do seem to remember there was a point where the Surgeon General actually said, I just found out that if you quit smoking, it could add as much as 10 years to your life.
And they're so fucking smart that they have already buried that and deleted it from their site. So I had to go to the Wayback Machine, wayback.com, I think.
Wayback Machine.
Oh my God, I love that thing. And it did come up with that, but one of them, not both. So they've already scrubbed it.
I hope you screenshot those.
Oh, I did. Well, no, I didn't screenshot it. I put it on the Wayback Machine, and I kept that link. So, yeah, once it's on there, it's on there. So
Yeah.
I'm keeping it that way. But
So,
yeah.
so Heneage, are you aware that there's a thing on the internet called the Wayback Machine? So once something is published,
I'm in it. Yeah, I'm on it.
well, I know that you're old. Oh, I'm sorry. I told you I would insult you after you've been on for a while.
Well, that was good. You took a while.
That's a badge of honor.
I went an hour and 22 minutes without insulting him.
That's not bad.
Yeah, we've used that wonderful tool many times to find stuff that people thought was expunged off the internet. It is very helpful if you haven't used it.
I have.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, the Surgeon General in Oahu went to a fucking beach without a mask, was closer than 10 foot away from somebody, and you and I, it would have been a $5,000 fine and up to 1 year in prison.
Right.
Well, obviously we would deserve that, you know.
Well, because we're awful human beings. I did think it was funny, though, and I'm going to throw this on screen because I did tweet this. And I said, you know, first it was stop buying masks. Then it was, yeah, wear masks. Now it's everyone but me wear a mask. And I don't care if the park is closed. I'm the Surgeon General. And then I said, you know, you're an embarrassment to the country. Hashtag fire the SG. But, you know, I did want to point out that Greg Conley, who I know, respect, and love, had a differing opinion. Obviously, Whiplash Schneidley also replied. But Greg says, I like to drag Dr. Adams more than most. But what a dumb thing for someone to be cited over. Still, he should probably do significant jail time over it, maybe even prison. And, you know,
is there a difference between jail time and prison?
Well, jail is in the like the local jail, and prison is in the, you know, hard prison where the, you know, and Kevin, or not Kevin, Greg is a youngish looking guy. He's in good shape. He might not fare well in prison. But Jerome, you know, I don't know if you've seen Jerome, but Jerome claims that he's in bad health. He's pre-diabetic, whatever the fuck that means. I think everybody that's not diabetic is probably pre-diabetic. It's like when we're talking about pre-symptomatic. That was a word that Jerome created when the pandemic started. And I'm like, well, does that mean that everybody that doesn't have symptoms is pre-symptomatic? There's a difference between asymptomatic and pre-symptomatic. I just thought that was hilarious. But yeah, so Greg Conley decided that this was not a, you know, this was a stupid thing to get in trouble for, but he should still go to jail.
Yes, he should.
I killed the room with that one.
At least go to jail.
Yeah.
I wonder what cigarettes are going for in Hawaii.
They're probably about $15 to $20 a pack, probably. You know, you did see that the government of Hawaii eventually wants the tobacco price or the age to buy tobacco to be like what, 100 or something like that.
100.
Yeah. They want to slowly incrementally increase it until it's $100 years to be able to buy a pack of cigarettes. Were you aware of that one, Heneage?
I know a former Prime Minister of Singapore, when he was called on it, said, well, look, you know, we can't just ban smoking because people smoke and, you know, cause a riot. What we can do is to just it's one of the highest smoking rates in Asia, you know, actually, Singapore. But what he did say was that one thing that we're considering is precisely what you're saying, is to just say, okay, from year zero, you know, like this year, if you can't, we just stop it so that when you reach the age of where you could buy a cigarette, you can't, and just keep that going so that you can't buy it. But you know, that's stupid. It just doesn't work, because at the end of the day, even in Singapore, if you want to vape, you can get it, and they're still cracking down on the non-blue seal. All cigarettes sold in Singapore have to be stamped on the cigarette with a bit of ink that says that it was, you know, been tax paid in Singapore. And the cops go around and will stop you and take a cigarette out of your hand and check that the stub doesn't, you know, like that. So they can't stop it. You know, at the end of the day, when you ban something, you lose control of it, and the only people who benefit are criminal syndicates. Did you know that over 10% of all cigarettes smoked on the planet are illicit, smuggled, tax unpaid, and in some cases counterfeit? Over 10%. The more you raise taxes, the more you create a black market. Who benefits from that? Nobody. Well, the consumer maybe, because he's probably paying less, but he's buying a product that you don't know what it is. So, you know, and it doesn't conform to any regulations, doesn't have to, because it's illegal. So, you know, that said, Al Capone will be an absolute, you know, if he was a vape manufacturer, Al Capone, he'd say, "You bring it on." Absolutely. That's right. That's exactly right. So, yeah, I mean,
yeah,
look,
I mean, we've been flying the pirate flag for quite a long time on this show, and I will repeat it. I have ingredients and a stirrer, and I will do everything possible that I can humanly do to prevent a smoker from continuing to smoke because he can't get vapor products. I will do everything humanly possible. And that means if you know, there's a lab in Poland or Germany or you know, any other country that I know of that can manufacture product and put it in a plain package and send it to me in bulk, I might just do that. I will do, you know, whatever I have to do. If that means sending a plain package product to India, to Singapore, to whatever, I will help. My job is to make sure that billions of people don't die. Jennifer, I'm currently vaping a rum butterscotch RY4 that I am formulating, and an absinthe and berry blend that somebody else manufactured or made for me.
And I'm using a Jennifer DeSangelis Winstead special.
DeSangelis. Remember, we already had her on the show, and we had to make sure that we learned how to say her name right. And you embarrassed me because I didn't say it right. So now I say it right.
I'm learning stuff every day.
But then you forgot it because you got Alzheimer's and you're old.
That's right.
Oh yes, Jennifer. I promised. I'm still tweaking. I'm still tweaking it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to get the rum note just a little bit better. I do a lot of booze and tobacco combinations, Heneage.
No.
Because I'm an alcoholic and I like to smoke. So.
What about the children?
Yeah.
I don't have any, as far as I know.
There you go. You're a consenting adult then. Good. So you know, this is usually where we devolve into craziness, but I do want to go back to your website, because I want people to understand that you've got a pretty sharp website and there's a lot of cool stuff on here. And I did want to say that if you scroll all the way to the bottom, in the bottom right-hand corner, there's a thing that says support Factasia. I'm sure that American dollars go pretty far over in that part of the world. I know for a fact
every dollar gets spent wisely.
I know for a fact, because we did this in Australia, the American dollar goes quite well, even in Australia. But you know, I'm sure that if you even hit custom amount and put $10, that Heneage probably wouldn't complain. So that's an important thing. We have to support our brothers and sisters all over the world, folks. But you have news pieces on here that you curate from other news sites, or do you write all of the pieces on here?
No, not all of them. Some of them we write. Some of them we get from other organizations and from the media and whatever. We're not alone in this. If you look at the CAFRA website, I think the CAFRA website is that's cafraorg.net. There you go.
Yeah, right here. Yeah.
CAFRA is an excellent website. You'll find on there a link to the recent Voices for Vape seminar that we put out, which is 4 hours. That's on YouTube, and well worth watching.
Yes, that was way too early in the morning for me, or late at night for me.
But you can watch it anytime you like. It's live on, or it's not live. It's on YouTube. We had David Sweener, we had Clive Bates, we had Fiona Patton, we had a lot of people on that. It was really, really, really good. And I would really recommend if it was the first seminar conference, if you like, whatever you want to call it, by consumers for consumers. There's a lot of good stuff in there, and I would really recommend just search YouTube for Voices for Vape. That's voices, word, for number, vape. Check it out. It was a brilliant effort by CAFRA. I mean, really, really, really good. Shout out to Nancy Lucas there. She did just an awesome job there. And that's a resource that it's out there. And if you're watching this and you haven't seen the Voices for Vape webinar, seminar, whatever, conference, whatever, go and check it out. It was a combination of really well put together videos and graphics and live Q&A sessions with experts that actually know what they're talking about. But it brings us to the question that you asked earlier: how do we do stuff? Our issue, and I think we all know this, we're in an echo chamber. There's unlikely to be too many people here, other than the FBI, that are watching this, that are looking to expand their understanding of something that they don't understand. Most of us that are here on watching this, we get it. Our challenge is to get what we know and what we understand and our experiences out into the broader public, away from the echo chamber. It's the problem with the media that you were discussing earlier. People just gravitate to media outlets that share their own opinion, so that they just bolster their own opinions. And that's right, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he agrees.
He's firing mad.
Yeah, he's really, yeah. So, any ways that we can get our messaging out to a broader audience, with the goal to get it to regulators so they actually listen and stop being lazy, it's a challenge for us. But one of the key takeaways, I think, from that is having the messaging as simple as possible, as straightforward, clear, and simple as possible. Vaping saves lives. Vaping is 95% or more less harmful than smoking. It is our right to choose to use less harmful products to a perfectly legal product to improve our lives and the lives of our families, co-workers, friends, and everybody else. And it's not just vapors we need to include in this. It's smokers, it's governments, it's media, it's our friends, it's our family, people who don't smoke, people who care about the rights of people to lead longer, healthier lives and to make informed decisions, and the duty of regulators and governments to listen to the people that elected them and follow the science and not the moralistic high ground that the billionaire philanthropists are foisting on us. This is what we all have to do. We have to break out of the echo chamber, and I don't have a magic solution for this, but it's what I spend an awful lot of time doing. It's what all of us involved with CAFRA and the groups here try to do. We know we're preaching to the converted here, but we have to get this out from here. So that means going to local council meetings. It means writing letters to MPs and senators and congressmen. It means getting letter writing campaigns going. It means getting petitions and surveys going. It means showing that we have the numbers, we have the strength. You have to listen to us. We're in charge of our own health. We can make the right decisions. You have to inform us, and you have to give us the pathways to a safer, healthier life, and stop following the money.
So Bill decided to private message me a question instead of putting it in the chat room. But he says, is there any further word on whether or not the Hong Kong vape possession criminal charges will be brought back in with the next government session? I know time ran out before it got passed last session.
Yeah, it's not dead. However, they've got a lot of other problems going on in Hong Kong right now. It could become an issue again. It probably will become an issue again. look, the way I see it, Hong Kong is a good little macrocosm, and thanks for asking the question. I think the situation in Hong Kong is that nicotine vaping is illegal, but any other non-nicotine containing vaping is still legal. Heat not burn is taking an increasingly large share of the market, and for us, we should be pushing towards regulating the sale to underage users and saying you need to include nicotine in the market. It needs to be available. So rather than pushing back against a proposed ban, we should be pushing towards allowing nicotine, which means, because you never get what you want in any negotiation, it's always a compromise. And if you're fighting against something, it's not really going to be the end result is not going to be as effective as if you were fighting for something. So if you're fighting for the inclusion of nicotine in juices and the and age restrictions on the sale, as opposed to against a ban, you're in a stronger position because you're drawing the debate closer towards a middle field that's going to be. It's never acceptable to everybody, but it's going to be more appropriate, more proportionate. So to answer your question, no, it's not dead in the water, but I think we have to take the initiative and persuade the undecided regulators there, the councillors, that this is of benefit to the 350,000 or so Hong Kong smokers. Was it 600,000? It's not a huge number of people. It's a very small market. But Hong Kong's slightly different to most countries insofar as currently they have a lot of money. So enforcement of stuff, if they've got to throw more money at enforcing a ban, they can. It's not a challenge for them. We need to be pushing them away from a ban, and I think that one of the ways to do that is to be advocating for nicotine to be allowed, and try to take the debate away from banning. And I think that's a useful adjunct. Ask for more than you expect to get, you're more likely to get closer to what you need. If you're fighting against something that's trying to take away something that you need, you're less likely to get what you need. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So our Aussie correspondent, Paul, has asked us to show this from the Parliament of Australia. It's so last week they agreed to establish a select committee on tobacco harm reduction, and the committee will require or inquire into tobacco reduction strategies with particular reference to, and all these points are here. This is open to international comment, according to Paul. So it's we have plenty of opportunities to participate in this as international citizens. Plus, there's some pretty smartish people in the chat room. And there are some pretty smartish people that listen to the show. So obviously, if you're listening to the audio, you're not seeing what I'm showing on screen, which is something that I will include in the show notes so that you can go and click on the link and be taken to the Parliament of Australia's website. Tom, our Kiwi/Aussie in the chat room, because I just like messing with him. Says that he did it yesterday, but there's this is kind of almost very similar to our FDA's website, where you are allowed to comment on the open comment periods for advanced notice for proposed rulemaking, ANPRM comments. So you go over here and there's an upload submission. There's instructions on how to prepare your submission for upload. And then once you've uploaded, I'm sure you'll get a receipt, and then you can track that using this track inquiry link that is shown on the right hand of the screen. So I invite each and every one of you that have because we know if you've been listening to the show and following the instructions that I have given you, you have a Word document already typed up that you can tailor make your already existing comments to fit these bullet points that they've mentioned on the website. And then you can obviously add or subtract things that are not necessary for this comment. But that is an evolving document that you should have different versions of saved on your computer, because every time that we have to do this, it's always better not to have to start from scratch when you already have the skeleton and you can flesh it out here and there where you need. It's a great practice to keep that document on your computer, and you can use it for every one of these. Obviously, you tailor it for whatever issue is happening at that point, but the guts are still there. So yeah, please take some time, get this in before the deadline to help out our Aussie brothers and sisters, because like we've said 100,000 times on this show, each one of these dominoes, each one of these places that are trying new things, like 2 years ago, Gottlieb said we might try a pharmaceutical pathway. Australia is beta testing that right now.
And they're not alone in that. Could I also add that if you go to the CAFRA website, you'll find submissions that have been made to various countries in the region, including Australia, which I'm not saying they're templates, but you can feel free to copy and paste, draw, rewrite, or whatever, because they cover a lot of the issues there. And you'll also find links to the science that justifies the positions that you might want to make there as well. The CAFRA website's a really good resource. It's not just Asia; it's all over the place. So there you can see some of the submissions that have been made. Yeah,
all of these are available for your edification. So yeah, I mean, go to CAFRA. That's this is. I've been on this website before, but I've never really dissected it. But yeah, there's a lot of good stuff on here, and obviously, we're not vaping snobs here. I mean, I've held up a can of snooze on the air on this show. Whatever it takes to get you off of the cigarettes, if that is what you choose to do, yeah, do that. So Bill is a questioning phenom tonight. I'm going to use Kevin's nickname because Kevin is the Twitter phenom. But Bill says South Korea originally approved the IQOS and vape products like the Juul, but have recently been pushing for more vape product restrictions based on U.S. FDA and CDC claims and misleading reports. Any word on whether they might try to push the restrictions mainly for e-liquid vape products while letting the big tobacco versions continue?
I guess that's a question for me again. The Korean situation is fluid, shall we say. So Juul pulled out because I think it was mentioned in the chat earlier, it just wasn't really kicking on. KT&G, which is the Korea Tobacco and Ginseng, which is the government monopoly, has its own products. They are looking at the taxation currently as to how they should tax these products. Within government, there's I won't say a consensus, but a strong push towards banning, or at least heavily restricting. But there's an equally strong push from various other. There are now consumer groups in Korea. There's also the Korean Harm Reduction Foundation, I think they are. KHR Association, which is comprised of academics and former government officials who look at not just vaping, but the tax issues, the economic impact, and so on and so forth. And they're essentially, I don't want to say they're pro-vaping, but they are pro the proportionate regulation of this kind of thing. So where it will go, we're not sure, but it's kind of sensitive in Korea right now, and I don't want to comment over much as to where they may go. We know where they should go, But for manufacturers there, particularly the smaller manufacturers, that it's very, very difficult to get into the market. If you walk into a convenience store in Korea, and everybody shops in Korea in convenience stores. Certainly, the last time I went into one, the display of less harmful nicotine products was greater than the display of tobacco products. I mean, they expand beyond the front, the till area, and they have actual stands of various KT&G products, IQOS, Juul was there, but not anymore, and various disposable devices and whatever. But if you're not a big player, you can't afford the shelf space. It's very difficult to get in the market. There are vape shops in Korea, and everyone I've been into has been doing business. Whether or not they can continue in business will really depend on what the government does. Taiwan is another country which has got some pretty serious issues going on with regards to vaping. There's currently a court case going on. Again, I don't want to over discuss it, but the Taiwan government has basically come out and said, we want to ban vaping, but heat not burn. Okay. This doesn't make sense. But when did governments ever make sense?
Never. Never. So
Never.
Kevin sent me a link. You sent me a link earlier to a study. This is the part where I let you talk. So I'm gonna throw it on screen, and you can talk about it.
I can talk about it. All right. Well, it's the e-cigarette debate. What counts as evidence? And my highlight is about 2 or 3 pages down, or 2 or 3, whatever. Let me see here. Just below that line, in 2018, the FDA launched the $60 million campaign part. Mm-hmm. Nicotine itself is identified as the ultimate threat in that, anyway. The agency's Don't Get Hacked campaign evokes reefer madness, suggesting that nicotine triggers a wild-eyed mania or personality hacking, in which nicotine transforms adolescents into robots that lack autonomy or charm of a chatbot. So I got that chatbot thing. I thought that was pretty funny.
Twitterbot,
chatbot. At the very, very bottom, it covers the children. Sandage, so just in case you didn't know.
Forget the children! There's an alien worm invading your child's body.
This is all. Actually, I'm going to link it, or if you haven't, I'm reading it through mine because I can't see it on yours. Towards the bottom, just above the acknowledgments, it's there's a line in here, and I can't see it at the moment.
There's the systemic. You're looking at the conclusion.
Yes, even in the absence paragraph, it's probably 2 or 3 from it's 2 above the acknowledgement. Although uncertainty remains about how much safer e-cigarettes are compared with combustible products by either the NASEM or the PHE, which National Academy of Science and Medicine, Science and something, and PHE, Public Health England, evidentiary standard, it's no longer possible, literally says, it's no longer possible to argue that e-cigarettes are as or more harmful than smoking in its zeal to protect youths. I don't know why they got the S on there. Public health leadership must refrain from misrepresenting the conclusive evidence that they are safer. So when you've got those 2 highly regarded entities, National Academy of Science, Engineering, and Medicine, Public Health England, this is what they went through. And while they're different, there's political side in this. There's the obvious gaslighting of children. The reviews and approaches that they're using are bad. They're just bad. So this I will link here in the chat in a second. But I like that there is no argument to this, really.
Well, I know for a fact that if you go into your Twitter your Twitter bookmarks, you actually have the NASEM study from like 4 years ago bookmarked.
2018.
Okay, 2 years ago. You still have it bookmarked.
Yes.
Because you tweeted it like 20 times. So that is an American, the North American
Yes.
science and engineering group.
Yeah.
And the Public Health England have both made substantial statements about the relative safety of vapor technology and electronic cigarettes. So, I do here. I'm gonna highlight something here. It says with FDA Commissioner Gottlieb's resignation, it is uncertain what path that agency will now chart, particularly as conservative anti-regulatory advocacy groups, some funded by Altria, pressure the current presidential administration to remove regulatory obstacles and possibly combustible products. So, yeah. I'm not quite sure what anti-regulatory conservative anti-regulatory groups that Altria is funding, unless they're trying to draw some sort of tenuous line to VTA. But obviously Juul's not even a member of VTA anymore, and they only had a 30% stake. Altria only had a 30% stake in Juul, which may or may not be thrown out by the regulatory bodies that approved the sale originally. That case is still in limbo. Juul may end up having to buy back the 35% stake that Altria bought in them. Might be kind of funny because I don't think they got the fucking money anymore.
They may not. They may not.
Yeah, which could be.
And I'm going to make a point of your saying Altria is in that issue. If I trust the tobacco companies more than I trust the public health.
Oh, definitely.
The way across the board.
Most assuredly.
All the way across the board.
Most assuredly, and we've had David Gerlitz on the show, right? Mm-hmm. So. You're friends with David. I'm friends with David. David's the star of A Billion Lives, and he's also apparently in the new Nicotine movie that you got to see that I haven't got to see yet.
He is.
So Heneage, Kevin actually got to go to the premiere of You Don't Know Nicotine, Aaron's new film, but he's been sworn to a non-disclosure agreement until the film actually is widely released to not give us too much detail about the film. And we already, obviously there's like what's the word I want to use here? A racial hatred, like a species hatred to tobacco companies now.
Yeah.
Because of all of the bad behavior 40 or 50 years ago. And I've said this before on this show and gotten smashed about it, but everybody, I don't believe anybody in this chat room's over 80. Could be wrong. But everybody in this chat room was fully aware from the Surgeon General's report in, 68? 64, that smoking is bad for you.
Yep.
That tobacco burning will hurt you, will reduce the quality of life and possibly kill 50% of the people that use those products as directed. So why are you upset about why do you think that the tobacco companies lied to you?
And
because
and what industry is
you're not
more,
old enough to remember when they did lie to you.
When they did lie, they were lying. That's great. That's fine.
And that was probably before everybody in the chat room was fucking born.
Right. And now,
obviously, I'm sorry. I'm all for personal responsibility. I chose to smoke, and I knew it was bad for me.
Right.
And I'm not blaming them. Obviously, they did some underhanded and sneaky fucking things. I'm not lying. I'm not making that up. They added shit to the cigarettes. The government allowed them to do it. Regardless of all that. And I've been in the state capitals. I've been in multiple state capitals, and our lobbyists and their lobbyists 99% of the time were on the same page. There's been a few instances where they weren't, but by and large, especially when it comes to tax issues, we're not always in agreement on the tax issues, because most of the time, the tax bills were written in ways that benefited them and victimized us. But by and large, they didn't lie to fucking us. They lied to our parents, our grandparents, whatever. And they are scrutinized by government regulators as much as almost any other industry, or more than any other industry on the planet.
That was my question. Name one industry that is scrutinized worse. Name one industry.
Liquor.
You think liquor is?
I know liquor is. At least bourbon. Bourbon manufactured in the United States has more regulations than any other product in this country.
Right, but scrutinization by public health officials. So you've got all these people making money from tobacco that are watching the tobacco industry. Is it the same as alcohol, though?
It won't be the same, but I mean, they'll have different levels of scrutiny and different regulations and different things. But yeah, bourbon in the United States, they've got their own separate congressional acts that regulate how bourbon is manufactured in the United States, and they have the A to Z of bourbon manufacturing. No, just to be able to put the word bourbon on the label, it has to be done in this encyclopedic version of manufacturing.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Bourbon, that's a product that we're proud of. Because we're the only place in the world that you can get that.
I do like it, but it's
damn well know that I like that.
I did not know it was as scrutinized as it is then. But tobacco is right behind it then, is what I mean. So yeah, I still trust the tobacco.
There's more ingredients in a cigarette.
Yes,
right.
There's a lot more. I just want to chime in very quickly to say, Edward, thank you very much for your donation. Well received. We'll spend it wisely.
Did Ed West give you money?
He absolutely did. Yeah.
Nice.
I'm off to the pub now. See ya.
No, I fucking drag Ed West pretty much all the time.
He's the 80-year-old. He's above 80. He's got to be.
He's California though.
Well, yeah, that's true.
I sort of have to just keep fucking with him just because he's in California.
Yeah, I just want to change ever so slightly.
Good, you're loud.
Thank you. The tobacco companies, we were talking historically how they misbehaved and whatever, and I mentioned earlier that that they've had a corporate shift as to becoming more responsible. I think one of the things that's driving that is the fact that if you're running a business where you principally have one product and that product is going to kill half of your customers, it's probably not a greatly sustainable business model. Never mind all the regulatory and legislative barriers that that are being put up and the taxing and whatever. If you're producing a product that's going to kill half of your customers, it's probably a good idea to transition to a product that doesn't. And I think that's certainly where Philip Morris and BAT are heading for. And I think to a similar extent, JTI and Imperial, who, by the way, Imperial owns all the patents to all the vaping devices. So every time you buy a vape device, Imperial's getting something. So obviously they want to see vaping, survive because they've invested heavily in it. The challenge is that we ensure that the independent, small, entrepreneurial manufacturers also get an opportunity, because one size doesn't fit all here. And what you buy in a convenience store is going to be ineffective for a lot of vapers, particularly those of us who've had the privilege of going to a vape shop and finding stuff that actually works for us. Because that's the nature of the beast. So we can't really allow regulators to create such a disproportionate playing field where only the big boys can participate. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about how flavors have been under the shotgun because companies like BAT and Juul and whatever, like, they don't care. You know, fine, we'll just do tobacco flavor. The common sense of that is completely lacking, as we all know, because if you're trying to transition away from smoking, the last thing you need is to keep having a tobacco flavor introduced to your mouth. But you know, there is, I don't think they're completely out of the clear in terms of possibly manipulating certain governments to say, you know what, why don't you just make it just tobacco and menthol and mint, and we're cool with that, because that just wipes out all the independence, and that is not something that is going to be good for us or anyone else. As Paul has just said, flavors save lives. Absolutely. We know this. Getting that message across has got to be key to the work that we do. Whether you want rum or whether you want vanilla, it doesn't matter. It's not tobacco, and it's got to be helpful. So yeah, you know, I think tobacco companies will supply, any company will supply what they think a consumer wants. We know what we want. Sometimes we don't know what we want, but we need to have the opportunity to go out. You walk into a candy store, you don't just buy strawberry. You say, I'll try the rhubarb, I'll try the blackcurrant, I'll try the whatever, you know, and then you figure out what you like and what works for you. And you know, the difference is that when you're vaping, I remember listening to a presentation by a New York vendor, and she said if you're a vendor and you've got somebody walks into your vape shop and they're trying different flavors, they'll say, yeah, you don't listen to what they're saying. You watch them. When the eyebrow goes, that's theirs. Yeah. And it's going to be different for everybody. We need the choice. Choice is fundamental to the success of. Go on.
I'm just going to interrupt for just a moment because you just gave me an idea, and I want to say it out loud before any of the DIY mixers in the fucking chat room, because there's quite a few flavor creators in the chat room right now. But rhubarb anise Cavendish is mine. I'm just saying, because he said rhubarb, and it's just like, oh
my God.
Yeah. I think there's some flavors which you know are possibly contentious. Any flavor that, I mean, I do agree that if you're calling something like I don't know what to come up with any particular names, but you know that obviously are aimed at kids, you know. That's probably not such a good idea to name that.
You know, I'm an unpopular guy as far as that goes. I would be happy with each company just putting a fucking number on the label. This is our number one. This is our number two. This is our number three. Try them, and you know.
Well, yeah, I think you've got to say what it is. I like mango. I don't want to go for number one or number two. I like mango. You know. But the other flavor that I do have, I have to admit, I do have issues with is one that was developed in Thailand in the black market, which is how can I put this? Well, it's pussy juice flavor. It actually contains, they claim, pussy juice. I think that's going too far, frankly. Yeah.
Wow.
So you know, clearly there needs to be some limit. And no one's saying that there should be no limits. I'm not someone that thinks that there should be no regulation. There should be proportionate regulation, future-proof regulation. Unlike Singapore, which their law bans current technology and future technology, which is like, what, you know? Wow. And I remember attending a hearing at the Hong Kong legislature, where one of the principal anti-vaping councillors said, you know, I'm completely against vaping, and I absolutely, you know, but, big but this, she said, what I'm concerned about is if we ban the technology and then we find out that it could also deliver life-saving medications direct from mouth to lung, we'll be really shooting ourselves in the foot. So we need to be a little proportional. And this was from someone who's really anti-vaping. I don't want to quote scientific research that hasn't come out, but there appears to be a possibility that the PNG that you find in vape products may actually be beneficial to users.
There's actually science. There's actually real peer-reviewed science that shows that PG has some antimicrobial properties. It is antiseptic, so it is difficult for bacteria to grow in it, and it does reduce infection rates because it is used in older hospitals, in air return systems and air filtration systems. Obviously, we all know that is a beautiful carrier. It is used in all sorts of products. It's one of the most highly used ingredients in a lot of different stuff. Kevin, fix your camera. You're all fuzzy. Bill has a question. Again, Bill is the question guy today. Did the planned excise tax on vapor product go through October 1st as expected in Japan?
I honestly, I haven't. I'm not on top of that one. Sorry, Bill.
Bill runs a.
I'll find out for you, Bill. I'll find out for you.
Bill runs a very well researched Facebook group that does news and stuff from all over the world, and he curates a good bit of information. So he's going to have questions. Bill has been on the show when Kevin skated out on us a couple weeks ago. Bill and Paul were my co-hosts that night, and Bill is a font of knowledge. A machine. If you haven't, if Heneage is on Facebook, I didn't even look and see if you're on Facebook, but if you are, invite him to your little club, or your page, whatever that is. Yeah. So there, not only that though, but not only the PG, but there are also pharmaceutical companies are also doing the research to see if this technology can be used as a delivery method for different things. There was
it already is. It's present in a lot of pharmaceutical products.
No, I'm not talking about PG. I'm talking about vapor technology being used as a medical delivery device for certain things. I do remember about 2 years ago reading some research that they were looking at an insulin delivery and diabetic management system, because obviously sugar, if your blood sugar is low, delivered directly to the bloodstream via your lungs, is something that could possibly be quite efficient. I do know diabetics that if they vape high sugar or high sweetened, e-liquids that have a lot of sucralose in them, it does affect their blood sugar, which is, kind of dangerous. But, that's why you should always know what you're vaping, because there are some people that put sweeteners in their liquid that do affect your blood sugars. Mike Morgan from House of Hybrids. I mean, for those of you that are old enough to remember when House of Hybrids created these really cool mechanical devices. He's diabetic, and he actually checked his blood sugar pre-insulin vape. Let's see what my blood sugar's like. Oh, my blood sugar jumped. Yada yada yada. So there is quite a lot of Mike Morgan from Zen, or Zen is the House of Hybrids is on this button, but yeah, Zen. Here's one hand engraved by Mike. It's got a koi fish on it. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, that's something that they want to get the patents. They want to work with Imperial to be able to use these as drug delivery devices, even though that was initially what they used. That was the justification in 2009 when FDA ordered customs in here in the United States to seize all deliveries of vapor products going through customs because of the fact that they were trying to prosecute as that we were using this as a drug delivery device. And the judge said, no, they're not marketing it as a drug delivery device, so that you can't seize them as that. But it did spur a whole bunch of shit. And everything that we're experiencing now being put into the tobacco product category stems from that initial lawsuit and the judge's decision that they can't regulate us as a pharmaceutical or a drug delivery device, and that they must try, or they can try, to regulate us as tobacco. And that's essentially what they did, is they took that judge's decision as basically saying you can instead of you can try. And they took that as, oh, well, the judge said that they're a tobacco product, and now we can regulate as a tobacco product. Then obviously Obama signed the Family Smoking Child Prevention blah 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 Act, which then legally did put us into the tobacco category. Whew. Right, it's a lot of talking.
Yeah, I mean, once the FDA got a hold of it, it was a bad thing. A bad thing.
Yeah. And obviously the FDA, the U.S. FDA, is the first public health agency in the world. We created the whole idea that the government can control food and drugs, and then went to all of the other countries in the world, or most of the other countries in the world, and built model FDAs in I don't want to say every, but most other countries in the world that have an FDA modeled their entire project on the US's version of it. We were the first. And obviously that goes, every flaw that is built into our program is now built into every program across the country or across the globe. So
I think it's important to make the distinction, though, that the FDA, it's not a bad thing to have a regulatory body overseeing what you put into your body. It is a bad thing to start dictating to you based on bad science what you can and can't put into your body. That's not a good thing. But yeah, I don't want to have a product that can kill me or make me sick. I want to make sure that manufacturers are held to, proportionate regulations, so that what they're providing to me doesn't hurt me, or at least any more than what it's supposed to, such as alcohol or whatever. But I think Dave Doran came up with an excellent statement, which is the human condition. We all know the stuff that we take is not particularly good for us, but we enjoy it. You can live to 150 years old if you survive on a diet of water and rice, but you can't stand up. You can't do anything.
You can't enjoy
joy. Exactly. So most of us who are vaping, and I mean, it is like 99.9% of us or more that vape, we've transitioned away from something that was hurting us, but we enjoyed it. Plus, we were dependent on the nicotine, and and I think there's another point. Just again to blather on, nicotine is regarded as being addictive. I prefer dependent, but actually, in tobacco, when you pyrolyze or burn tobacco, it creates thousands of different compounds. And one flavorist told me that with current state of technology, it would take over 1 million years to identify everything that's created in the burning tip of a cigarette. We don't know. But there's two things we do know that are created, and those are the same chemicals that make heroin addictive.
Yeah, there is MAOIs. There's a certain level of permissible MAOIs in combustible cigarettes.
Permissible.
Permissible.
I love that word. It will allow you that.
Yeah, I mean, we've covered that ad nauseum here on the show. The government allows tobacco companies a permissible level of MAOI content in cigarettes. Now, MAOIs are the same things that are in antidepressants. They're things that activate happy chemistry in your brain. And there's a reason why when you're stressed out and you step away from your work desk or whatever, you go outside and you light that cigarette, and that first inhalation is like heaven. There's a reason, and it's because those happy chemicals in your brain are generating and bouncing around, and you're like, oh, I feel so much better now. And then you go back to the salt mine or whatever it is that, the fucking torturous job that you have, and 2 or 3 hours later, you step away from the desk and you inhale your happy chemicals again, and everything is fine. And it's not only because of the nicotine, it's all the other shit. There's, as many as 600 ingredients in the non-combusted cigarette. And then when you light it, it can create countless variations and
over 7,000, I'm reliably informed.
7,000. Just the act of burning 600 ingredients creates 7,000 byproducts.
And a footnote, part of I think it's the Tobacco Control Act, 2009. The FDA is requiring cigarette companies to give them these ingredients, and I still can't find them. So there you go.
Well,
you're never going to find them.
There's a list of what you're allowed to put into the manufacture of a cigarette, of chemicals that you're allowed to put in. There's a list. Yeah. But as I said earlier, if you wanted to identify everything that's released in the burning, paralyzing tip of a cigarette, we don't have the technology to do that. Some of these compounds have half-lives of, can measured in microseconds. Others last longer. Some are radioactive, but we don't have the technology to actually know what they are. And that's a frightening thing. It really is that we don't know and never will.
Kevin, that's a fool's errand, because they're never going to make that list publicly available, because it's obviously it's industrial espionage if they were to release what ingredients were in that product. So stop wasting your time. You're not going to find that list.
It's like asking Coca-Cola to say what's in their product.
And there's not a single employee at Coca-Cola that knows every ingredient, because each person that knows an ingredient knows that one ingredient or 5 ingredients that they put in there, but nobody is allowed to talk to each other to say, oh, well, I put this in. What did you put in? It's just, that's the way Coca-Cola was designed. It's designed so that not one person knows the entire formula. And I'm sure.
But since we're talking about Coca-Cola, let's talk about caffeine.
Oh, I love caffeine. I love all stimulants, my friend.
We all love caffeine. Caffeine, which is a naturally occurring alkaloid and shares a very similar molecular structure to nicotine, which is derived from various plants, which we consume every day, not just in coffee, but in all kinds of other things, Coca-Cola, candies, whatever, which has, as I say, very similar properties to nicotine. Chocolate, all kinds of stuff. But we market caffeinated products to our children.
5-hour energy?
Yeah. Coca-Cola, Pepsi-Cola, Dr. Peppers, whatever. I mean, it's
a socially acceptable stimulant.
Absolutely. A socially acceptable stimulant, which is equally as dependency forming, shall we say, as
which initially actually did contain cocaine.
Well, Coca-Cola did, but caffeine as a compound, right, is extracted from coffee beans generally, and is deadly if you take too much of it. Just if you get a lump of caffeine like that, if you took all the caffeine out of a standard sized jar of instant coffee and took it all at once, probably kill you. If you took all the nicotine that was in a packet of cigarettes, it probably wouldn't, but it wouldn't make you feel good. So that if you took take some bleach, it'll save you from everything. No, it won't. It will kill you. There's stuff sitting in your bathroom and in your kitchen right now, which if you take it, it will kill you. But we allow it. So caffeine and nicotine, I'm always trying to conflate the two together, because at the end of the day, the way I put it is, if 4,000 years ago the tea leaf had fallen into the fire and the tobacco leaf had fallen into the boiling water, we'd be having a different discussion right now.
The Brits would be really pissed if they couldn't have their tea.
Well,
and we started an entire war here in America over tea. Yeah, we started an entire fucking war over tea.
No. You just didn't know how to brew it. You don't brew it in harbors. You brew it in boiling water in a teapot. But it's okay.
I actually was watching. There's a YouTube channel called Oversimplified, and they go through history and they do little videos oversimplifying different events in history. And there's a reaction video of this British kid watching the 2-part video on the American Revolution, and he was like, that King George is a bastard, and blah, blah. You're like, he's like, I didn't know any of this. What are they teaching?
No, well, that's actually true. I only found out very late in life that there was more than just one war in the States. I mean, it was a little sort of like, they got pissed, proved they couldn't brew tea properly, and something about no taxation with rappers. Somebody rode a horse somewhere, and we said, "Oh, screw it, give it to them." That was it. That's how they taught us in history. And I was a history major. I mean, that's how they taught it. It was years later when I started running into America. What? What? What?
Pay no attention to those colonists.
Yeah, really, they know. Yeah, they made it all up. But yeah, apparently that's the case. So,
we were kind of pissed, weren't we?
Well, apparently, yeah. Sort of like no one taught you how to brew tea properly. They threw it in the harbor. No.
This is really salty.
Bloody Philistines, just give them whatever. Yeah, we don't want to talk to you anymore. Okay, Yeah, but apparently there was a whole war and shit. Who knew?
Yeah. A big fucking
deal. The bit that we do know is the French were involved, so obviously it was bad.
Yeah. Well, what's really funny is before the revolution, the Americans and the Brits fought the French here, and then when we started fighting the Brits, the French were like, "Hey, here's some boats and some guns. We're gonna send some guys over, and we hate those British fuckers too.
Here, wear some of these hats, will you?"
And then the Brits were like, hey, you know what? We have all these undesirable people. Let's send them to Australia.
Well, we weren't allowed to send them to America anymore. So, yeah. It's like, yeah.
All the undesirable came here and then eventually went to Australia.
Yeah. That's where the rest
all
of
the
them
Aussies in the room are now they're getting pissed off. Paul says, Viva la France.
Viva la France.
He's an Aussie. He was transported, so,
Well, that's what we call him on the record.
So, yeah, we've been here for 2 hours and 24 minutes.
That's right.
So, Heneage, so what do you want to leave these people with about Factasia and what the hell's going on in Asia right now?
What do I want to leave you with? Well, I just want to reiterate what I said before. We're individuals, but collectively, we're unstoppable. If we're going to get what we want, which is to be able to purchase these products, and not just vaping, but snus, heat not burn, whatever it is that can help people transition away from cigarettes, we have to continue to echo, that's the wrong word, but to voice simple, clear, truthful, factual, straightforward, rational, reasonable messages. These are our lives, our rights, and if you impose your draconian, prohibitionist, moralistic, unfactual, unscientific, and unreasonable bans and restrictions on us, we're not going to be quiet about it. And we need to involve people beyond our echo chamber, our families, our friends, and this battle is won one person at a time. All of us who are vapors, who've discovered that vaping has made our lives so much more productive, better, and healthier, can't keep quiet about it. We tell our friends, we tell anybody that will listen to us. We have to continue doing that. As I say, the messaging is key. It's absolutely vital that our messages get out to a wider public, because that's the only way we're going to influence regulators. And that is who ultimately we have to, because like it or not, that's who controls the rules that we attempt to abide by. But it's equally clear that pretty much all of us here, if the government, wherever we are, bans this product, we're going to keep using it, because the alternative is to go back to smoking, and we know how bad that is for us. And we know that there's a way out of it. We found our way out of it. And this is a message that you can't suppress. And I agree with some of our Australian colleagues that, you know, it's going to be, this is not a race we're in. This is a marathon. And we will be passing the torch on to others, because it will take a while. But we will get there. Ultimately, we will get there. And one of the things that I say is history will not judge politicians and regulators who stand in the way of this well, because they are ultimately going to be people who stand in the way of allowing us to vape, allowing us to have access to regulated products and choice, are condemning hundreds of millions of people to avoidable premature illness and death by their failure to look at the science and evidence and apply reasonable and proportionate regulation to allow us to have access to these life-saving products. So everybody's voice matters. There's, you know, whether you go to CAFRA, whether you go to Factasia, whether you go to wherever you go there, write the letters, make the statements. Personal testimony, nothing stronger than that. We're all winners. We've all beaten tobacco addiction. We need to make it very clear to the world that we are winners, and anybody that stands against us will lose, because they will and they must. And I salute you guys, Patrick, Kevin, your team. Thank you for having this platform, for allowing these voices to be heard, because this is how we do it. And it's grassroots, and that's what we are. We're grassroots, and grass grows everywhere. And you can cut it down, but it comes back again. And that's what we are, and that's what we do. So, yeah, vape on, guys. And thank you for the opportunity to be here. Much appreciated.
Very good having you on, by all means, Heneage. This is a little hard to follow, Patrick. Thanks a lot. So I'm going to make it a little bit shorter than normal. I've been in this since on my own at 2013, and then 2014 when I did my little survey. So I'm kind of in the middle of the role from Patrick when he was, you know, vaping in 2008 or 2009 or something. He's like 100 years old in vaping years, him and Paul. But I'm going to do cliff notes of you, Heneage. Really, it's that we have to be unified. We have to have one voice. I love that. We're the front runners, if you will, if you want to call it that. But it's human rights, the consumer groups that you mentioned for CASAV in the States. Our voices are important and louder, period. So, yeah, I appreciate you coming on. I'm glad you're here.
Been a pleasure.
Patrick?
So, you know, we mentioned the FCTC multiple times during the show. And anybody that's watched the show historically over time, we've talked about the FCTC in COP, whether that was COP 5, COP 6, COP 7. We're doing COP 9 this year, right?
Next year.
Well, I mean, it says 2020, February, November.
It's been postponed till November 2021, and we're not sure if it's going to be a live event or online. They don't know
2021 in November. They're still there. Wow. Okay.
So we have a year, guys. Go to Smoke Free for Life. The petition will be launched in about a month. We want 500,000 signatures.
But
tell FCT where they can go. And it isn't. It's a dark, smelly place.
The thing I wanted to mention, we've talked about it on the show, is they don't allow the free form or the free flow of discussion at these COP events. Obviously, we're quite aware that the one that was in India, I think 2 years ago or 3 years ago, they actually banned David Gerlitz from even traveling to India. Like, they canceled his visa. Like, they escorted media out of the event and would not allow media coverage of what they talk about at the FCTC Framework Convention of Tobacco Control. This is a World Health Organization initiative. This is something that we should be up in arms about, that this World Health Organization will not allow people to A, hear what they're saying at this thing, B, attend what they're saying. If somebody has a differing opinion than them, they're not allowed to even come into the fucking country. This is a guy that was awarded like the medal of the WHO award for tobacco efforts when he dropped a dime on the tobacco companies and testified to their bad business practices. But when he comes across vaping and says, this is a miracle, this is a great thing, he's no longer allowed to arrive or appear or even be in the same country. So I want everybody to realize, I mean, Americans, we're not members of this organization. We're not party to this. We're not signatories. We're allowed to be an advisor role only at the FCTC because we're not signatories, because we have our own master settlement agreement that precludes us from participating in this because they already have binding legally concrete agreements. So COP is what is COP? Conference of the Parties. Yeah, Conference of the Parties, and then there's a meeting of the parties, which is MOP. But we got to realize that this is the tactics that they used. They silence people that have a differing opinion than them. Your opinion doesn't matter. That's just like how people in general treat, and we've talked about harmful language in the past. Oh, you're a smoker. You need to go over there. We've made them pariahs. We've separated them from ourselves. You're an addict. That just, the way they say that word is dirty. Addict. Smoker. Those are hot words. Those are harmful words. And the way you talk about these people these are human beings that have made a choice and can easily make another choice or a different choice. But these people, the WHO, the FCTC, they're doing the same thing to harm reductionists. You can't come here because your opinion is not important, is different than ours, and we don't like things that are different than ours. We want to have all the control. We can't allow that to happen. We cannot allow that message that we have, that vaping saves lives, that smoking is bad, that I'm a free human being that can make my own choices. We cannot let them continue to silence us because we're different than them. You know, this whole idea that the other people that are other than us are bad. We can't do that anymore. We can't allow this to continue. We have to do everything possible to scream so loud that they cannot ignore us, and that the people that hear our voices may one day say, you know what, they've been saying it for so long, I'm starting to believe them. Maybe vaping isn't bad. Because, you know, we already know the numbers don't lie. Over the last 3 years, their misinformation and lies has changed the public opinion of vaping. That, you know, 3 years ago, everybody knew, 70% of the people knew that vaping was safer than smoking. Last year, they repeated the same thing. We've talked about this before. 70% of the people that were responding to that poll knew that vaping was as dangerous or more dangerous than smoking. And that's because these respected health corporations, these for-profit health organizations had repeated a lie so many times that people just bought it. It's now ingrained in their head. Well, American Lung Association says, WHO says, CDC says, lies. We can't allow a lie to become the truth. So, you know what? I appreciate everybody that's come to the show. David, Tom, Ed. Thank you, Ed, for giving Heneage some money. Paul, Addie, who's in the YouTube room. I know that there's not hardly anybody in the YouTube room, but thanks for coming, Addie and Shannon. And, you know, the rest of you guys, I see Troop is in the chat room. You know, Troop, I love you. Got your band up here. You know what? This is a Friday night. We have some fun. I think we're probably creeping up on Saturday morning here in the States, and Heneage is already in a Saturday morning. He's already had his breakfast, and he's got a couple.
Way ahead of you.
He's in the future. We've broken the timeline. But you know what? This is a weekend. We always have fun on the weekends. When the show's over, go and find your wife, give her a big wet one. Find your kids, give them a hug, tuck them in. Enjoy your weekend, barbecue, watch football, do whatever it is that you do, because on Monday, the battle is still going to be here, and we've got to fight it. So just be ready. We'll be back in 7 days. Hopefully we can find another guest. I've been trying to get Clive Bates on the show. Maybe we can sucker Clive Bates to come. There's a gentleman from India who I would love to have on the show. I'm sure Heneage knows who I'm talking about. I would love to get more international voices on this show, because the Americans, I've said this before, we got our blinders on and we only look at what's going on here, but we need to be focused on everything. We need to look at the big picture and show that everything that we are experiencing here, other people are experiencing, and what they're experiencing may show up on our shores one day. So let's get some other voices to amplify, and you know, we're going to do everything possible to bring you as much information as we can. So y'all be good. Have a great weekend. And you know what? We're going to go out with our Eddie tribute and the regular closing, and you guys have a good one.
I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul.
We're exporting a whole lot of really bad and dangerous rhetoric, bad research, and unfortunately it's being picked up and amplified in other countries.
It's the same battle, Mr. Myers. We've been at it before. They want to addict these kids, this time to an e-cigarette, which has a chemical that's addictive. We know what it leads to. Sadly, it leads to tobacco addiction, disease, and death.
I'm going to get you addicted to nicotine. I have a customer for life. We have hundreds of cases nationwide where people have gotten sick or died using these devices.
Look what they're trying to do. All the delicious flavors of e-cigarettes are poison.
They're not people giving up smoking. They're not people that ever smoked before. Most people that vape never smoked before. Just think if your kid was doing this and winds up with an IQ 10 or 15 points lower than he or she would have had for the rest of her life.
Most people who vape are current or former smokers. For the addicted adult smoker who switches, there's going to likely be a reduction in risk.
There's a tremendous push to bring about prohibition, to actually prohibit vaping. Whereas the evidence strongly suggests that actually, up to now, the most successful way of people stopping smoking cigarettes is vaping.
Yeah. When vaping increases, smoking decreases.
That's right.
When vaping is restricted, smoking increases.
We're worried that, in fact, a lot of members of the public still think that using an e-cigarette is as harmful as smoking a cigarette. So, I mean, I have said that it would be tragic if smokers didn't quit and carried on smoking because they hadn't tried an e-cigarette, because they were worried about the safety of an e-cigarette.
The most disheartening thing is still the anti-choice rhetoric, the desire to enforce this quit or die mentality and refuse to allow individuals to reduce their risk unless they're willing to give up everything.
I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul.